Imagine for a second a fierce apex predator, a master stalker completely hardwired for the hunt, gracefully navigating the complex, highly dynamic ecosystem of, well, your living room. The domestic cat is this absolute marvel of evolutionary engineering. They are a creature that walks this incredibly delicate line between ancient wildness and modern domesticity. But, to truly understand them, we really have to look at what they do when they finally power down. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to completely decode the intricate patterns of feline sleep. Because it turns out we're actually uncovering a hidden language here. It's a language spoken entirely in silence, and it reveals millions of years of evolution, calculated territorial strategy, and frankly, the ultimate quest for survival in a human-dominated world. Okay, let's dive right into this because it's a paradox that pretty much every cat owner has quietly observed and probably puzzled over. How does a creature so fiercely independent, possessing these wild, crepuscular hunting instincts, end up asleep on your couch in a bizarre, highly vulnerable pretzel shape? To unravel this mystery, we really have to recognize that the way a cat sleeps is far, far more than just taking a rest. It is a direct, unfiltered window into their ancestral past. Every single posture is a delicate negotiation. They are constantly balancing the intense, spring-loaded drive of a natural predator with the absolute non-negotiable necessity to protect themselves when they're completely physically defenseless. Now, you might look at your cat totally draped over an armchair and think, wow, what an incredibly lazy animal. But this number right here, this tells a vastly different story. 20. Cats can spend an astonishing 13 to 20 hours a day sleeping or dozing. Think about that. That's almost the entire day. And listen, this isn't lethargy. It is an absolute biological necessity. Cats are crepuscular. That means their bodies are biologically tuned to peak activity at twilight, those really fleeting hours of dawn and dusk. During these specific windows, they expend explosive, massive amounts of energy patrolling their territory and hunting. So that immense 20-hour sleep cycle, that is the necessary cellular recharge. It's literally preparing their bodies for the next high-stakes twilight patrol. So when they do finally power down, the specific postures they choose are just incredibly revealing. Take the posture we often call the crescent. You've definitely seen this. This is where a cat curls into a nearly perfect geometric ball, often with their nose practically touching their tail, and sometimes they'll even use that tail as a makeshift scarf. This is a deeply instinctual, ancient posture. Basically, it acts as a biological fortress against the elements, maximizing the conservation of their body heat. But more importantly, and this is absolutely crucial for survival, it physically shields their highly vulnerable vital organs located in the soft abdomen. It's a defensive carryover directly from their wild ancestry. It's really an architectural marvel of flesh and fur that allows them to feel entirely protected while they rest. And this brilliantly illustrates the duality of their wild instincts and domestic comfort, perfectly captured in a posture affectionately known as the loaf. Here, with their front paws neatly tucked underneath their body, the cat is actually delivering a masterclass in survival mechanics. This specific posture allows the feline to conserve precious body warmth, much like the crescent, but notice how their torso and head remain upright, right? They are perfectly balancing a state of relaxed rest with a guarded, predator-ready alertness. It is spring-loaded tension completely disguised as tranquility. If a threat, or, perhaps a favorite feather toy, suddenly appears, a loafing cat can uncoil and spring into immediate action in literally a fraction of a second. Now, contrast that carefully guarded loaf with a position of sheer, utter vulnerability, the belly up. In the wild, the soft tissue of the abdomen is a cat's absolute most defenseless spot. An attack there is almost always fatal. Therefore, a cat choosing to sleep on its back with its belly completely exposed is an act of unconditional surrender. It signifies absolute, unwavering trust in their environment and the humans who share it. They are communicating that they know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that absolutely nothing bad will happen to them here. It is the ultimate feline complement. Yet, keeping with their brilliant biological design, it can also serve as a highly effective thermoregulatory strategy. The fur on their belly is significantly thinner, making this a remarkably clever way to vent body heat on a particularly warm afternoon. Then there are the sleeping positions that just utterly baffle human observers. We call this the contortionist. You will frequently see legs pointing one way, the head twisted entirely in another direction, and the spine bent at what appears to be an agonizingly sharp angle. But rest assured, they are not in pain. Actually, this bizarre, twisted shape is a true anatomical marvel of the feline body. See, cats possess a highly flexible spine, featuring elastic cushioning discs and, crucially, more vertebrae than humans have. This unique elasticity allows them to find supreme, deep comfort in twisted shapes that would send any of us straight to a chiropractor for sure. But the fascinating story of feline sleep is not just a matter of anatomy. It is deeply rooted in geography and environment. Consider your own human bedroom. To you, it is simply a quiet sanctuary, right? A place meant for rest at the end of a long day. But through the eyes of your cat, the bedroom transforms into a complex, multi-layered savanna. It is a highly contested social map of micro-territories. These are distinct zones of status, hierarchy, and safety that must be calculated, negotiated, and sometimes even aggressively claimed every single night when those lights go out. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this environment forms a strict sleep hierarchy that practically governs the room. Cats do not simply wander in and casually pick the softest blanket. No way. They actively trade physical comfort for strategic vantage points. The highest status cat in the household, the top cat, inevitably claims the pillow or the headboard. This prime real estate grants them direct access to the most vital resource in the room, which is you, while simultaneously offering a clear, commanding view of the door. The middle of the bed, that serves as a neutral buffer zone, a kind of social bridge where uneasy truces are formed. Meanwhile, a subordinate cat might relegate itself to the foot of the bed just to maintain a quick, unobstructed exit route. If a cat retreats completely under the bed, they are actively seeking security in a low-confidence state, while an elevated shelf acts as a predator perch for a highly anxious but incredibly observant feline. Let's focus specifically on that top cat position for a moment, because it holds a particular fascination. If the bedroom is indeed this complex map of wild territories and calculated resources, why does the highest status feline consistently bypass a plush armchair or a super soft rug to claim the real estate right next to or directly on top of your face? Out of an entire, comfortable, temperature-controlled house, why do they always choose your head? Well, it comes down to a deeply fascinating intersection of raw biology and profound affection. Cats maintain a naturally high basal body temperature of around 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the rest of your body is usually securely trapped under heavy blankets, your exposed head basically acts as a brilliant, radiating heat sink. But the choice is also highly social. Your head and face carry your strongest, most concentrated pheromones. By sleeping there, they engage in a behavior known as allo-rubbing, actively absorbing your unique scent and marking you as an accepted, integral part of their safe family colony. Furthermore, resting right near your face allows them to precisely monitor your breathing and minute movements. When you combine this biological heat, the tactical safety of the high headboard, and the profound emotional trust of placing their vital organs near your own, your head simply becomes the ultimate feline fortress. Let's move to and see how this builds into something much more serious. Because these ancient, deeply ingrained survival instincts carry a hidden danger that every feline caretaker must intimately understand. Cats are absolute masters at hiding when they feel unwell or are experiencing pain. It's an evolutionary trick designed to prevent them from looking vulnerable to larger, opportunistic predators out in the wild. Because they mask their sickness so incredibly well while they are awake and active, a sudden shift in their sleep patterns or resting postures often becomes a silent alarm. When that energetic facade finally drops, the way they sleep transforms into their primary, nonverbal cry for help. So the crucial point is learning to tell the definitive difference between a harmless behavioral quirk and a looming medical crisis. Consider the act of a cat using its head. Head-bunting, when your cat affectionately and gently rubs their forehead against your arm or leg, is a wonderfully normal display of love and scent marking. Head pressing, however, is entirely different and deeply, deeply concerning. If a cat is staring blankly at a wall or a corner and firmly, persistently pressing their forehead against it for extended periods, this is absolutely not a quirky new sleeping position. It is a critical neurological red flag. This specific action frequently points to severe internal issues like liver failure, dangerous toxin buildup, or extreme high blood pressure, and it requires an immediate, urgent trip to a veterinary professional. Context is absolutely everything. As you can see, a healthy cat's sleep is inherently fluid and relaxed. They sprawl loosely across the carpet, their loaf posture is soft and beautifully symmetrical, and their facial muscles are completely calm. But a sick cat's sleep, it's noticeably guarded, stiff, and unnatural. The posture becomes visibly tense and hunched, or conversely, terrifyingly limp with a total loss of normal muscle tone. A sick loaf morphs into a rigid, uncomfortable tuck with the paws pushed tightly inward. Their expression may appear dull, heavily squinted, or actively pained. And perhaps most tellingly, they will suddenly abandon their usual favored sunny spots to hide away in unusual, dark, isolated corners of your home. If a cat is truly unwell, you might actually observe a dark, tragic timeline of escalating symptoms. Initially, you will notice them holding that tense, hunched loaf for hours, with their back artificially rounded and their head lowered, which is a very common instinctual sign of abdominal guarding or severe kidney discomfort. As the internal pain or distress grows, they will progressively isolate themselves from the household, retreating deep into closets or far under beds, completely driven by that wild urge to avoid being seen in a vulnerable state. The ultimate undeniable red flag occurs when they begin sleeping directly inside the litter box. This heartbreaking behavior almost always indicates severe, immediate distress, such as a life-threatening urinary blockage where they feel a constant, agonizing urge to go, or they are simply too physically weak to move away to a clean space. And then, there is one specific posture that you must never, ever ignore. We call it the Sphinx. This occurs when an exhausted cat absolutely refuses to lie down on their side to rest. Instead, they stubbornly prop their body upright, artificially lifting their chest, stretching their neck far forward, and holding their elbows slightly out and away from their ribcage. Listen, they aren't trying to look regal or alert here. They are desperately using biomechanics to force their chest cavity open, fighting to make every single labored breath just a little bit easier. This posture indicates an absolute, critical respiratory emergency, severe heart failure, or fluid in the lungs. If you ever witness the Sphinx, do not wait for morning. Seek emergency veterinary care immediately. To wrap up our explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Exposing the belly means dropping every defense. It is the ultimate feline compliment. When we pause to look closely at a sleeping cat, we aren't just looking at a pet taking a casual afternoon nap in the sun. We are bearing witness to millions of years of fierce, predatory instincts, constantly negotiating with the deep, profound safety provided by the human home. It is a beautiful, silent truce between the wild savanna and the living room sofa. So the next time you catch your tiny, perfectly evolved apex predator curled tightly by your head or sprawled out entirely defenseless with their soft belly to the sky, take a moment to ask yourself, how much ancient, wild trust has your cat truly placed in you tonight?